Hello, this is Brian Hartman, and welcome to episode 8 of the Author Podcast. Today we're going to discuss my new Christian fiction novel, Sacrificial Touch. This is a very personal book for me, and as we get into it, you'll see why. I'm also going to talk about Theodora Taylor's book, Seven Figure Fiction, and the concept of universal fantasy, and how I accidentally applied her concepts to my book, Sacrificial Touch. So, this book is the first Christian fiction novel that I've written. I read the Left Behind series in college and absolutely loved it, but I never had a chance to write something like that. Now, again, this is a very personal book for my family as it deals with the loss of a child. If you're not aware, we lost our 2-year-old daughter, Grace, 2 days after her second birthday. There's a lot of guilt and sadness still with us 10 years later that will likely never go away, and frankly, I don't want it to. For me, writing has been very personal and a way to get aspects of my life on the paper in a fictional way for others to read. But the loss of a child was not something I was comfortable sharing or felt I was a good enough author to do it in an appropriate way. I didn't want to release a poor quality book, and so I waited and made it my 8th book. If you don't know the premise of it, it follows an ER doctor who is killed by a patient and has a near-death experience with God. Now he's given the choice to stay in heaven or return to earth with the ability to heal anyone of anything. And of course he says yes, right? Who wouldn't? It's what we dream about working in the ER. But there's a catch. Every time he uses it, he loses a month of his life expectancy. That really makes it a little bit higher stakes, right? It's not an unlimited gift. So when I initially set out to write this, I wanted to make it a book that's more of a treatise on healthcare and how society demands essentially unlimited altruism from healthcare workers, hence Sacrificial Touch. But no matter how bad COVID was, no matter how busy we are, we're expected to always perform with the utmost compassion. No matter how rude this person is, we need to be perfect with this other person. No matter how many times we get assaulted, we're still supposed to be perfect. The online reviews, social media posts that all only tell one side of the story, and that, of course, we can't respond to by law because of privacy concerns. The never-ending battle to get appropriately reimbursed for what we do, fear of lawsuits, and then navigating the worsening administrative and legislative burden that just encompasses all of medicine and gets worse every year. So that's where the catch came from with receiving the gift. Losing a month of your life expectancy is an obvious consequence to treating someone. So to make something interesting, you kind of pick a point and then amplify it to make it more obvious, and that's what I did here. But I wanted it to be a visual thing also. If he simply died sooner, nobody would notice the outward harm until the end. So by having him age a month every time and advance toward the end of his life expectancy sooner, that would give a visual feedback for others to see how he is physically harmed and how his death is hastened by using the gift to heal people. Now that's not a real random statement. I mean, that's true. It is well documented that emergency medicine has shorter lifespans than other medical careers. Rotating shift work, insane stress levels all contribute to this. But if we mention it as a reason to maybe get hazard pay or any sort of special compensation, we're immediately told, hey, whatever, just go do something else if you don't like it. And yet at the same time, if people have to wait longer than they feel appropriate to be seen, we get trashed, again, on any site or to any ear that's going to listen to how aggrieved anyone is. Now, if there's a good restaurant, they'll likely require reservations. People understand that, and so they make a reservation a month out so that they can eat at the nice restaurant. Christmas, Easter, Valentine's Day, you plan ahead and you know it's going to be busy and you understand that. But emergency medicine doesn't work that way. We have no idea how many people are going to come in, and so we staff for what's typical. You're never appropriately staffed. You're either overstaffed because there's no patients or you're understaffed because there's too many. We also operate 24 hours a day, regardless of whether there are any patients or not. During flu season or other epidemics, patients flock to the emergency department, and they don't understand why the wait is longer. And unfortunately, the assumption is that we're either uncaring, so we just let people sit in the waiting room, or we're lazy because of the wait to be seen. But then behind the scenes that they can't see, we're usually getting crushed, and we're tired, we're exhausted. Our emergency department is full of inpatients waiting to go upstairs into a hospital that's full. So despite having a surge of patients to be seen in the ER, we're usually operating with significantly fewer rooms than we would even on a normal day. So initially, I wanted to write this book to highlight all of these struggles. And so it starts out with Cameron, my doctor, main character, getting pretty frustrated at this situation. There's an elderly woman who comes in, and he diagnoses her with cancer. Then he sets up outpatient follow-up for her, which the family's upset about, even though the diagnosis doesn't meet criteria for inpatient hospitalization. The elderly woman goes home, and she returns to the ER the next day with a hip fracture. She got weak, fatigued, fell and broke her hip. The family blames him for not admitting her to the hospital, despite the administrative rules that disallowed him from doing so. So from a craft of writing standpoint, I could have written most of the first few chapters in a few paragraphs in the voice of the narrator, which is telling. Readers don't want to be told, they want to be shown and make their own opinions from what is presented. They want to guess where the story is going. They want to guess how that piece of information comes back into the story. They want to identify the bad guy, predict a twist, but they can't do that if I simply write, Cameron was frustrated because the administrative state of medicine required him to discharge patients who did not meet admission criteria. Now that's not a fun sentence to read. That's terrible. What's much more enjoyable is 1,000 words showing the initial visit and then the repeat visit and all of the emotions of the family as well as the physician. Now, when I first started this draft, I had written it in third person and really had not looked at it as a Christian fiction book. Again, initially I was going to just write the book that discussed Christianity, but that wasn't the thrust of the book. The thrust was what's wrong in healthcare and what it does to us as healthcare workers. But as I got further into it, I realized that's kind of a ridiculous topic to focus on compared to discussing soul-saving Christianity. Like, which is more important? If I had the opportunity to present the gospel, why would I waste that and instead whine about healthcare? I mean, I couldn't take myself if I did that. So once I realized that, I said, this is going to get a lot more personal. And I stopped writing for a while, did a few other projects, because again, I didn't think I was good enough to do it at that time. 2 of the books are written in first person, and I really enjoyed that. And I think that's an excellent way for the reader to get really close to the character, find out what they're thinking and what they're feeling. So I went back and rewrote this in the first person, and that really set up the alternating timeline of character perspectives, which I also really enjoyed, and I'm going to use in my next psych thriller also. Now, initially, when I wrote it, the scene with God and the near-death experience was going to be the only one that was in first person in order to have that stand out. But again, I just went back and redid the whole book. Now, it was difficult to get through several of the scenes while writing and editing because of the emotions that they brought up. I tried to put that into my characters as well and create several scenes that are designed to pull on your heartstrings. A child with a cleft palate nursing for the first time. Parents watching their brain-dead child come back around. Now, I don't want you reading this book. I want you to feel it. I want you to relate it to your life and evaluate your own situation as it relates to your own mortality and your own morality. Now, it's easy to live without any sort of guideposts for our behavior, but it's good to measure ourselves against something once in a while. Now, somebody commented that they very much enjoyed the book, but that it didn't have a happy ending. Now, I would disagree with that. No, he doesn't live happily ever after, but who does? It ends in a very emotional climax that leaves a lot of people much better off and creates a martyr in the process. But it also empowers his son and elevates him while reinforcing his faith. I think most of us would consider that a happy ending to our life if we could do the same for our family and future generations. Now, I asked a friend and fellow author to write the foreword. His name is Dr. John Robinson, and he has a great series of books out also that weave in Christian theology into his storylines. His books follow a crew of Navy SEALs, as well as a female ER physician, Christy, who's involved in a slow-burn romance with one of the SEALs. He does it just beautifully. And he has several more books set to release in the series, as well as a new series that I believe is pretty much done. Now, I cannot wait to read them. They're action-packed, make you root for the good guys, despise the bad guys, and just lose yourself in a great storyline. Now, he wrote this forward about miracles and how they actually do happen, citing several examples from his own life. Now, my book talks about miracles in a fictional sense, but that's not to say that they're not also based in fact. Miracle healing does happen, and I've seen it. So if you're looking for a new book, check out Sacrificial Touch on Amazon. It's $4.99 to purchase the ebook. The paperback is $13.99, and it is enrolled in Kindle Unlimited, like all of my books. Okay, let's move on to Theodore Taylor's book, Seven Figure Fiction. She writes romance books that are really well received and read by millions of people. And there's something about the romance and fantasy genre that just strikes a chord with people. The readers just love them, and they just crank through book after book after book and page after page after page. And I'm envious of the Kindle Unlimited page reads that these authors post in the Facebook groups. It really makes me want to make a pseudonym and start writing these. But don't worry, I will not subject you to that. But if I did, you'd never know it. The premise of her book talks about the concept of ultimate fantasy. So what she describes as the butter that makes everything better. Basically, readers of fiction want to escape into a story. They want to picture themselves as one of the characters, or at least in the room, while all the action is happening in front of them. Readers want to experience something in a book that they can't experience in real life. And this is the concept of ultimate fantasy. Very few people want to watch something bad happen to another person or themselves, like in real life. Who would want that? And yet psychological thrillers, where people are constantly getting injured, kidnapped, and worse, are one of the highest selling genres. Why is that? It's because people want to experience that type of thing as a bystander and viewed in fiction rather than in real life. Like picture Jack Reacher. Who would not want to be Jack Reacher? to have that skill set and the physical prowess that he does. Now, I think I stumbled upon this concept of butter and ultimate fantasy accidentally in the book Sacrificial Touch. Someone having the ability to heal anyone of anything would be incredible, right? It's like a genie granted you unlimited wishes for you to use if you use them for the right reason. Now, I think my readers picture themselves as the doctor, and then when he heals someone, they get to experience that joy that is reflected back on him through the response highlighted by the patient or their family. And it gives them a front row seat to watch a miracle happen and to celebrate along with all of those affected. I'm going to really try to use that concept in my next book. It's a psychological thriller that follows a couple on a sailboat. Who wouldn't want to live on a sailboat and cruise through the world? Well, maybe no one after they read the plot that I came up with. Again, hope to get that book done by the end of the summer and get it out in time for Thanksgiving. There's an off chance I get it done faster if I can really blast through it. And I also want to publish a Christmas novella, then write book 5 in the Bryce Chapman series, then write the sequel to Sacrificial Touch, then the final book in the Perseus Eco-Terror Thriller series, then another 2 psych thrillers that I have already plotted out. Now, that was 6 books. And I just said all of that out loud for the first time, and all of that just crushed my spirit. But it's probably 2 years of writing. But it also motivates me, and I think you're going to love every single one of the books. I'm trying to get better with each book I release, and Sacrificial Touch is by far my best work. I truly believe this book was inspired by the Holy Spirit, because frankly, I'm not a good enough author to create a book like this. It truly is touching hearts and having a powerful impact on people. It's got a 4.8 average review on Amazon right now with 39 ratings, which that's a good amount of ratings for me since it just came out on Christmas. Now, if you read it and liked it, please give me a positive review and share it on social media. And if you happen to know anybody at Angel Studios or any other Christian production house, send it to them. I'd love to make this movie happen. But let's end the podcast here. I managed to spend an entire episode on writing without getting too much into politics. I'm trying to keep this podcast more focused on writing to help the algorithm find me the right audience of readers and authors interested in starting their career. So thanks for watching. Now go enjoy this beautiful gift of life.